She said, "You're the one I've been waiting for." The words hung in the air, soft and heavy all at once, like the quiet before a storm I never saw coming. I'm 23, just trying to figure out how to keep my life from running away faster than I can catch it. And there she was, Anna. Mid-40s, graceful in a way that didn't feel forced or staged. She had this calm confidence, like someone who's been through enough to know what really matters but still carried a spark in her eyes, as if she hadn't given up on surprises. I met her at the small café I'd been working at for the last 6 months. She came in almost every afternoon, ordering the same black coffee and blueberry muffin, sitting in the corner by the window. I thought she was a regular until one day, she stayed long after her usual time, and for the first time, she looked up and caught me watching her. That day, the café was quieter than usual. The hum of the espresso machine filled the background, punctuated by the occasional clink of a spoon against ceramic. I was wiping down tables when she asked me to join her for a moment. My heart thudded in a way I hadn't expected, not because I thought she was out of my league, but because there was something about her that made me want to be more than just the barista who brought her coffee. I pulled up a chair opposite her, noticing the way the afternoon light softened the edges of her face, revealing a subtle vulnerability behind her poised smile. There was a quiet tension between us, like we both knew this wasn't just casual small talk. She didn't say much at first, just watched me with a curious intensity, as if trying to decode something she hadn't quite figured out yet. My hands felt a little too warm, and I caught myself fiddling with the sleeve of my shirt, suddenly self-conscious. Then, out of nowhere, she leaned in just slightly and whispered, "You're the one I've been waiting for." I blinked, heart skipping. Was it a joke? A test? But her eyes didn't waver. There was something so sincere, so raw in that moment that I almost forgot to breathe. The café door opened, and a gust of cool air brushed past us, carrying in the faint noise of the street outside. For a second, everything felt suspended between us, the world outside and this fragile bubble where only the two of us existed. I wanted to say something clever, something that would make this moment last longer, but all I could manage was a shaky smile. She returned it, eyes glistening, and I realized how tired she looked beneath that brave facade. Maybe she was waiting for me, not because I had it all figured out, but because I saw her. Really saw her. Not just the woman she presented to the world, but the one behind the mask. Before I could gather my thoughts, my phone buzzed loudly on the table, breaking the spell. I glanced down at the screen, a message from an unknown number that simply read, "Don't trust her." I looked up, searching her face for answers, but she was already watching me with a soft, unreadable smile. And in that moment, I knew this was just the beginning. I slipped my phone into my pocket, the message burning in my mind like a shadow I couldn't shake. Don't trust her. But how could that be true? Anna was sitting right across from me, her eyes steady and calm, like she'd seen this doubt before, or maybe even expected it. She cleared her throat softly, breaking the silence. "You know, I wasn't always like this," she said, her voice low, almost hesitant. "I used to believe in love the way people write about it, the fairy tale kind. Then, life happens." I nodded, wanting her to go on but knowing some stories don't come easy. "I was married once," she said finally, eyes drifting to the window where the rain had started tapping softly against the glass. "For almost 20 years. We grew apart slowly, but the hardest part was realizing I lost myself in the process." She looked at me then, searching, maybe for understanding or forgiveness. "I don't want to make the same mistake twice. That's why this," she gestured between us, "feels dangerous." Dangerous. The word echoed inside me. I was 23, fresh out of college, still figuring out who I was. Anna was everything I wasn't, experienced, guarded, and complicated in ways I couldn't pretend to understand yet. The age difference felt like a wall between us, thick and cold. And she wasn't just some woman from a coffee shop. She was my best friend's mother. I fought the surge of guilt. The voice in my head screaming this can't happen. But then I caught her watching me again, that same mixture of hope and fear flickering behind her steady gaze. I thought about my past, the relationships I'd let slip away because I was too young, too scared, or just too dumb to hold on. The loneliness that sometimes felt like a second skin. With Anna, things were different. She wasn't pretending, and neither was I, even if it scared us both. "I'm not sure what this is," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But it feels real. And maybe that's what scares me the most." She smiled softly, a trace of sadness touching her lips. "It scares me too." For a moment, the rain outside was the only sound. Then, almost without thinking, my hand brushed hers across the table. It wasn't planned or poetic, just a simple, quiet touch, but it said everything words couldn't. She didn't pull away. Instead, she closed the distance just a little, her fingers lingering against mine like she was afraid this connection might disappear if she let go. And in that fragile moment, with the rain tracing patterns on the window behind her, something unspoken settled between us, a promise, a question, a risk. We were both waiting, holding on, unsure of where this could lead but unable to turn back. The afternoon sun had dipped behind gray clouds, casting the café in a dull, restless light. Anna's eyes flicked toward the door every time it opened, like she was waiting for something, or someone. I could feel the weight between us thickening, unspoken but impossible to ignore. Just as I was about to speak, the bell above the door jingled sharply. My heart thudded, breath catching. It wasn't the usual afternoon crowd. It was Mark, Anna's husband, though separated, still tangled in their messy past more than either would admit. His presence was like a sudden storm, breaking the fragile calm we'd built. Mark's gaze swept the room until it landed on us. He paused near the counter, eyes narrowing when he saw Anna and me sitting too close, hands barely apart on the table. A bitter smile flickered on his lips, but he said nothing. Instead, he ordered his usual, lingered, then left, leaving a cold silence in his wake. Anna exhaled slowly, her fingers trembling just a little as she pulled her hand back. "He's more complicated than you think," she said quietly, avoiding my gaze. I wanted to reach out, to reassure her, but guilt stabbed at me. This wasn't just a simple crush anymore. It felt like trespassing on a battlefield. That night, lying in my small apartment, I couldn't stop replaying our moments together. The warmth of her hand, the hesitant smiles, the vulnerability hiding behind her steady exterior. But then Mark's shadow crept in, making everything feel wrong. My phone buzzed with a message from my roommate, "Jake, saw your mom's car outside the cafe today. Everything okay?" The words hit me like a slap. How much did Jake know? Was this already out? The next day, Anna and I met again under the fading afternoon sun. We were supposed to be cautious, but the tension between us snapped like a wire stretched too tight. "I can't keep pretending this isn't happening," I said, voice rough. "But it's tearing me apart." Her eyes glistened, hurt and longing colliding. "I want this, but I'm scared. For both of us." Without thinking, I reached across the table again, this time closer, fingers brushing her cheek softly. Our eyes locked, the space between us electric. For a heartbeat, everything paused. The world quieted to just us. Then, hesitation. Anna pulled back slightly, trembling. "Maybe we shouldn't." "I don't want to lose you," I whispered. Her breath hitched. "But we're already lost, aren't we?" Neither of us moved. Neither spoke. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the cafe windows. Inside, two hearts pulled closer, tangled in fear and desire, too afraid to break, too stubborn to let go. The cafe was almost empty when I saw him again, Mark. This time, he didn't just glance our way. His eyes locked on me with something I couldn't quite place: anger, hurt, possession. My chest tightened, and I realized how little I'd thought about the consequences until now. Anna sat across from me, but her usual calm was fraying. Her fingers tapped nervously against her coffee cup, eyes darting between the door and me. "He knows something's going on," she whispered, voice low and rough. "And he's not the kind to sit quietly." I swallowed hard, suddenly feeling very small in a world I thought I could navigate. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," I said, though it sounded hollow even to my own ears. "Least of all you." Her laugh was bitter. "You think I don't know? Mark and we're tied up in years of history. But this," she gestured between us, "this is different. Dangerous." The tension twisted tight in my gut. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me couldn't walk away. Then, she did something unexpected. Her voice softened, eyes searching mine. "Do you remember the night I told you, 'You're the one I've been waiting for'?" I nodded, heart pounding. "I wasn't just talking about now." Her breath hitched. "I've been waiting for someone who sees me, the real me, after all the years I lost pretending." The words hit deeper than I expected. I reached out again, this time steadier, grasping her hand as if it could anchor me. Suddenly, the cafe door slammed open. Mark stood there, face flushed with rage and something else: pain. Betrayal. He didn't say a word at first. Just stared. Anna's hand froze in mine. "Enough," Mark finally said, voice low but shaking. "This ends now." The air crackled, electric with unspoken threats and broken promises. Anna's eyes met mine, fear, defiance, and something raw and fragile all at once. I wanted to say something, anything, but my voice caught. The distance between us shrank until it felt like the entire world was just the three of us. And then, the doorbell rang again. We all turned toward it. Outside, someone waited. The moment shattered. And nothing would ever be the same. Just as the tension thickened, the cafe door swung open once more, but it wasn't who we expected. Instead of Mark or a stranger, it was Jake, my roommate. His face was pale, eyes wide with something close to panic. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop," he stammered, voice cracking. "But I overheard Mark on the phone last night. He's planning to do something. Something bad." Anna and I exchanged a glance, breath catching. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. Jake swallowed hard. "He's been talking about ruining everything. He said if he can't have you, Anna, then no one will." The air shifted, what I thought was fragile tension now snapped into sharp, dangerous reality. Anna's hand slipped from mine as if burned. Her face went pale, but her eyes hardened. "That man," she whispered, voice tight with years of fear and rage. "He's never really been gone." My heart hammered in my chest. The risk wasn't just emotional anymore. It was real. I wanted to protect her, but I also felt the weight of guilt crushing me. I'd dragged her into this mess, and now everything was spiraling out of control. Anna stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I have to deal with this," she said, voice steady but cold. "Alone." Before I could respond, she was already walking toward the back door. The fear in her eyes was raw, but beneath it, I saw something else: resolve. Jake looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Be careful," he warned. I wanted to follow her, to tell her it was okay to lean on me. But the words caught in my throat. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. Outside, the rain had started again, heavier this time, matching the storm that was about to break between us all. And just like that, everything I thought I knew, the safe moments, the quiet hopes, fractured into something darker. Because now, it wasn't just about whether we could be together. It was about whether we could survive what was coming. The rain hammered against the pavement as I found Anna standing under the flickering street lamp outside the café. Her coat was pulled tight around her, but her hands trembled as she held her phone, fingers hovering over the screen like she was deciding something far heavier than words. I stepped closer, heart pounding, the silence between us thick with everything unsaid. "I shouldn't have dragged you into this," I said quietly, voice rough with regret. "You didn't ask for any of it." She looked up, eyes glistening, and for a moment, the weight of years seemed to lift. "Maybe," she whispered, "but I'm tired of hiding. Of pretending I'm not scared." I reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. "So what now?" She bit her lip, hesitation flickering in her eyes. "I have to tell Mark the truth. Not just about us, but about everything he's been hiding. It's the only way to stop the damage." My throat tightened. "And us?" She smiled faintly, a mix of sadness and hope. "We'll figure that out. One step at a time." The tension broke as she finally pressed send on her phone. Her fingers trembled less now, like releasing the secret had freed a part of her. I wanted to say more, to promise forever, but the moment was fragile, too raw to rush. Instead, we stood there, rain washing over us, two imperfect souls finally seen. For the first time, fear wasn't the loudest thing between us. It was something quieter. Something like hope. But as the streetlight flickered again, casting long shadows, I knew our story was far from over. And maybe, that was okay. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Truths spilled out like cracked glass, painful, sharp, but necessary. Mark's anger simmered, then faded into reluctant acceptance. Anna and I learned to navigate the fragile space between fear and hope, our connection deepening not through grand gestures but in quiet mornings, shared silences, and the small, imperfect ways we reached for each other. We weren't perfect. There were moments when doubt clawed in, when the past threatened to pull us back into old patterns. But what surprised me most was how those cracks didn't break us, they made us real. One rainy evening, much like the night we stood beneath that flickering street lamp, Anna looked at me and smiled, tired, yes, but genuine. "Maybe waiting isn't about finding the perfect person," she said softly, "but about finding someone willing to stay through the storms." I reached for her hand, the warmth familiar and steady. No promises, no illusions, just two flawed people choosing each other again, and again. Our story wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy, complicated, and sometimes terrifying. But it was ours. And in the end, maybe that's what love really is, choosing to stay, even when the waiting feels endless. Did you enjoy this story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Share your thoughts, I'd love to know.